When I originally wrote this script, what I'm about to say was the conclusion. But since some of you only watched the first half of these videos, I decided to put the end at the beginning because this is too important to miss. There have been a lot of questions about how much will Strada cost. Now, we still have a lot of work to do on pricing, but there's one thing I can confidently say we will not be charging for: users. Strada will be unlimited users. Now, that statement's gonna make investors squirm, and it could be harder for us to raise money. I know how tech companies work, and I know why they love charging a per-user business model. But I know much more about how creative people work. Today, you subscribe to tools that make a huge portion of their money based on monthly active users, and the reason for this is the benefit of their business. Getting annual commitments from customers that are locked into month-over-month fees per user, regardless of usage, makes predicting revenue easy. But I have a huge problem with this model. Creative people don't work consistently month over month. We all experience significant rise and fall between projects. Freelance teams grow and shrink throughout the duration of a job. Some people do one big project a year, others do a bunch of small ones. Some seasons are more productive than other seasons. Pre-production is often unpaid until the project begins. And most importantly, sometimes we just spend a month hunting for the next job. With all these variables, how do you predict anything with any sort of certainty? I don't even know how much production I'm gonna use this year or how many people I'll be collaborating with. Yet I'm already being billed for users that might not exist. Why are we being asked to commit for paying for tools we aren't really sure we're gonna need? That's why software as a service can be so painful. Tools that charge the same amount of money during the natural up and down flow patterns of creative work are relying on an unfit model for the creative industry. That's why an account with Strada will allow you to invite unlimited users so you can grow and shrink and even pause the product based on your own creative rhythm. I want you to pay for the compute, not the people. If your team needs to ramp up from 5 to 50 for 1 month out of the year, you should be able to do exactly that without having to justify 11 months of financial penalties. Or worse, increasing security risks by sharing your login passwords to skirt around paywalls. Strada is a tech company, and therefore it will require a monthly subscription. But what makes us different is that we're a creative-first tech company, and we know how content is made. We will generate revenue based on how much processing you require to create something, not how many people you require to create it. We make money when you make more content, so we're building a product to help make that process easier and more powerful than ever before. And that was my close. Hope it makes sense to put up front. Because a few weeks ago, we decided to host a live webinar and show you exactly where we are in the Strada development and then demonstrate the product as it currently stands. If you're following our story, it's critical that you watch episode 17 before watching this episode. Now, Strada isn't available yet and it's not quite ready for you to use. So sharing inside information of an unreleased product is dangerous because it not only reveals what we're doing to potential competitors, it kind of backs us in a corner because anything that we fail to deliver, well, you're gonna hold against us. I've been in this spot before. You know, if a fish could only keep its mouth shut, it would never get caught, but it would always be hungry. That's why we chose to do a pre-release live webinar because we wanted to create an opportunity in which we could interact with you more directly. During the webinar, more than 200 people attended and gave us incredible real-time feedback as we took live questions and comments. For those of you who were there with us that day, thank you. We were floored by your great reaction to Strada, and we appreciate you making time for us in your busy lives. For those of you who weren't there, check out episode 17 and get the first step-by-step tour of Strada as we walk you through how you can immediately gain value. But the one drawback to the webinar is there were so many questions, we couldn't answer them all. So we're dedicating this episode to diving deeper into your questions. So buckle up, we're going to address your questions and start diving deeper into workflow technology. First up, your questions about transferring. Many of you asked which storage solutions are compatible with Strada. Our mission at Strada is not to require you to subscribe to a custom storage cloud in order to use our tech. Instead, if you've already invested in a cloud, we want you to continue leveraging that investment. At our beta launch, we will support Dropbox, Google Drive, Frame.io, and Lightroom. Soon after, we expect to support Box and Google Photos. The most important thing about this is that you tell us what other clouds you want to connect into Strada. From there, we need to make sure that those clouds support a REST API for fetching assets using OAuth. This is where we'll start, but some of you asked if Strada will be compatible with object storage like S3, That's on the roadmap and it's a high priority, but it will not be available in the early 2024 beta. And great products like LucidLink or Blackmagic Cloud, they do not currently publish the same kind of API required for Strada to access their assets. So if you want products like those to interface with us, you'll need to make those requests with those manufacturers directly. It's not a Strada limitation. Another great question is whether or not Strada will be integrated with accelerated transfer products like Aspera or Signiant Media Shuttle. While those are well-liked file transfer tools, those technologies are primarily focused on moving assets. Since Strada is able to connect clouds to each other, it should make the need for high-speed transfer tools less necessary, since you can transfer or share files you already have in the cloud without having to actually upload them to a third-party service first. Plus, since we're cloud to cloud, our backbone is 10 gigabytes per second. This also means you can consolidate all your media to one cloud through Strada without having to download and re-upload assets. By the way, we're doing that because I am so sick of having to download assets from one service just to re-upload them somewhere else. My guess is you're sick of it too, so we're gonna fix that. Okay, next category are questions about transcoding. Few of you asked whether or not Strada will play all major codecs. That's an easy one. Absolutely. We're using a combination of open source technology and independent SDKs to build our own custom transcode media pipeline. This means we can expect to support virtually every popular codec used in today's workflow. That prompted the question, what about raw codecs that can't be debared in a web browser product, like Dropbox, for example? Actually, that's not a problem with Dropbox. Web browsers can't debear raw files. So let's just say, though, you have a raw file in a Dropbox account, you want to see it without having to download it. Well, you're gonna love this. Strada will automatically debear raw files and transcode them to a mezzanine format wrapped as a 1080 or 4K 10-bit HEVC file for optimized playback. This process should be automatic, so eventually you should be simply able to view and playback popular raw files without having to initiate transcodes. This also solves questions about latency with large files. Once in the cloud of your choice, Strada's media pipeline will decide whether you can play that file directly from your current cloud or we need to create a mezzanine format to serve it back to you. Today, raw files will require that Mezz solution. But as we add more AI into the product, a Mezz file will also serve as a way to preview assets, since AI models are not codec agnostic. In fact, they're actually very picky. So later in 2024, we'll allow you to introduce AI features into workflows, even when your files are incompatible with AI models. Again, if this sounds confusing, what I just described will be an automated task in the background, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. Now, many of you working in the video space ask great questions about the handoff from Strada to your preferred NLE. Strada's beta will be able to render in batches and output XMLs that contain the metadata relevant to a traditional edit, such as clip name, timecode, and even multicam association. But it will also provide creative metadata associated with our analytics pass, which will enhance searching during the edit. And over time, this will pave the way for trimming so you could submit a pull list into Strada and download assets relevant to the cut directly from the cloud. And of course, we'll support custom handles. One of the biggest time savers of Strada is our ability to sync audio in the cloud. In a former life, I sung 10,000 audio and video files together, so I am personally thrilled this is finally happening. When we demonstrated this in the webinar, people in the live comments went nuts because they realized automated syncing video and audio in the cloud is exceptionally rare. And we aim to democratize this age-old, laborious task. One question was whether or not you can slip audio. Strada will debut with what we call Simple Edit, which includes the ability to slip picture and sound independently so you can compensate for any timecode drift when audio and video stacks are made. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, today you expect to have to transcode media before collaborators can review it in the cloud. Being able to see and hear it stacked in a virtual file means you can choose to skip the time required to make disposable files like dailies and rushes. Now, one of my favorite questions someone picked up on was batch transcoding to multiple destinations. Since Strada is able to connect to multiple clouds or even multiple accounts tied to the same cloud, you can set the same batch render from Strada into 2 destinations. This means once you set up a batch render, you have a new level of freedom and power to designate what is created and where it goes, which will all happen in parallel. For users who want the best performance, we're talking about multiple transcodes to multiple destinations of multiple hours of content being completed, in some cases, in mere minutes. Gone could be the days that you render clip by clip to a local drive and then you sort it out and then upload that media separately. This is another laborious task that I'm sick of doing because it delays my ability to initiate team collaboration. So we're gonna solve that for everybody. The next subject is transcribe. The last 18 months have seen tremendous advances in transcription technology and integrations. What's happening with transcription is incredible across products in every market. But when it comes to the content creation market, there's one thing that really bothers me. Today, if you want a transcription to help your collaborators, the most likely place you get it is a nonlinear editor. That is wrong. What's happening today is manufacturers are putting transcription in the NLEs, which means they're saying that the cutting room or even the editor are responsible for generating transcripts. That's wrong for several reasons. First, the cutting room already has too many responsibilities, and adding the management, creation, and distribution of transcripts and translations is an unfair burden. Second, it means you delay the time anyone can read a transcript until the files are prepared and delivered to the cutting room. Third, it ties up the actual NLE from doing what it's supposed to do. And last, none of the NLEs do this step very well, especially in large batches. They're kind of built to work on single clips or edited timelines. They're not designed to manage transcription or translation passes for hundreds of dailies. We're gonna fix that. Beyond the obvious benefits of a transcript, we see the future of transcripts being used to help sharpen the capabilities of search. And if that process happens in an NLE, it inadvertently limits who can use it. By putting transcription in Strada ahead of the NLE, the expense of generating transcripts is not only lifted off the shoulders of the edit team, it invites a wider array of collaborators to leverage the value of a transcript in the first place. Plus, you don't need to pay for an additional edit license just to be able to see and hear and read your work. That's why we're investing a lot of time to debut Strada Transcribe with 3 different modes in the beta. Strada will support over 100 languages of transcribe and translate, and we're pulling our technology from multiple LLMs, including Meta and Whisper. Plus, it's all automatic. You don't need to learn an 8-step process to do it. If you click on an asset in Strada, chances are it's already transcribed and ready to search. Next up is tagging. There's a technological theme you may have noticed when we talk about Strada, and that is a strong belief in automation. One thing that's always bothered me about professional tools is that there's just too many clicks, too many windows, too many buttons. Why is that? Well, when product designers, product managers, or engineers aren't experts in the way creative people work, they tend to build a safety net of assumptions in the product. These assumptions to you look like buttons or preferences or endless right clicks. Sometimes you can tell how unaware a product team is by how elusive these functions may be. Many have lost their way when it comes to organizing. Is a button surfaced in the app? Or is it a right click? Or is it located in the settings? Oh wait, that's a preference or a floating window. One of the problems with this approach is that it requires you to know where they are and initiate every multi-click task manually. We're approaching the construct of Strada differently based on experience, and we hope to get Strada to do more with fewer clicks. Now, this is most evident in our tag analyze technology, which we call Tanalyze. When you connect a cloud directly into Strada, it begins analyzing the picture and sound and starts building a list of things to present in a tag. Early on in beta, this will deliver you pre-tagged results that have extremely high confidence values. Eventually, these tags can be searched from within Strada or grouped into an XML or AAF when doing a batch export. But while auto-tagging will be valuable, you'll eventually be able to teach Strada what types of criteria you're looking for. So for example, in the future, you'll be able to show Strada a logo or someone's face, and Strada will learn to locate that logo or person and tag every frame they appear. Strada will eventually begin to learn about your preferences for shot composition or even search for emotions derived from faces like fear and joy. Some of this will be available at the beginning, and some of it will take time. But we're really gonna need feedback from you because Tanalyze is a completely new way of working, and we need your input to get it right. And now we're back at the conclusion, which I already did at the beginning. So let me end with this. I want to use a product that allows me to stop shaping my workflows around tools and instead shape the tools around my workflows. I want the ability to flex the cost with the size and scale of each individual project. I want to make use of the cloud storage that I already pay for. I want a tool that's fully interoperable with any of the other apps or clouds that my collaborators use. I want the choice of saving money by processing locally on my computer or saving time by processing remotely in the cloud. And most of all, I want to work with a tool that feels like it knows me. Not some clunky app that I use like 12% of, but a tool that I can customize exactly to my needs. Like your smartphone. You know it's yours, and you know how to find anything on it. Our mission at Strada is to enhance workflow like never before because we're putting creatives ahead of everything else. So can we do it? Well, the private beta of Strada is right around the corner, and if you want access to it, you need to sign up and then reach out to us and let us know that you want to try the beta on a project. To be a creative-first company means we need to understand how you work. So I'm asking you to sign up and tell your friends and tell your collaborators to sign up and join us for the beta so together we can finally get this workflow thing right.